What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down our UI, my HUD, my controller, all of it kind of in a reintroduction to getting started with the controller within Final Fantasy XIV. I've been given or been asked a lot of different questions about my UI, and I've covered most of those questions probably over the course of several videos, so I'm hoping this video, this guide, is going to be the full comprehensive guide that you need for really managing your UI, regardless of whether you're a controller player or a keyboard and mouse player. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to take it slow. I'm going to break down the concepts as best I can. So this video is going to be a little bit longer than we typically try to manage our guides by. That being said, I'll try to include links in the description below, as well as trying to say the word include, links in the description below to various different sections of the guide itself. So where shall we start? Let's talk about our HUD layout. That seems to be an area where you have a lot of power and control. So let's start there, and then we're eventually going to dive into our settings and really go through, break down what the settings themselves do. So under Start and then under System and HUD Layout, clicking on this is going to bring up your HUD layout. So for me specifically, I throw in hotbar 3 right here. I cover it in my controller guides. The reason being is that I can put various cooldowns on this hotbar. I'm not ever clicking on it because I'm playing with a controller, but obviously with any kind of hotbar, you can move it around. Recently, as of patch 4.1 that came out earlier last year, you can actually have a little settings here for your various control elements. So you can specify how your hotbar is designated. Do you want it to be vertical? Do you want it to be horizontal? Do you want it to be kind of a blend? What's the zoom percentage that you want to see on it? Do you want it really big, really bold, right in your face? And you can save those changes, or you can easily set it to default, or you can turn it off completely right there. I'm going to just record those changes. You also have the ability to filter your various system elements up here at the top. So you can see if I go to basic or if I go to system, then you can see various things that are related to just those options and hotbars. Up here you actually also have, I'm going to go and not save those changes, different layouts that you can manage and control. So what this gives you the ability is you can actually save and manage and copy these various things. So if you've got a setup that you enjoy for your healer, and then you want to play a tank or a DPS, and you really are like, I don't want to change my healer, but I really want to change my DPS, you can easily set a different HUD layout for that. And then if you go into the settings gear for that, you can actually copy your HUD layout, and thus it's a match, and then you can make whatever changes necessary from that perspective. As a part of your gear sets and macros, you can actually automatically have it switch with your gear sets. If you guys would like to know how, please check my macro guide for the UI. I'll try to include a link to that video in the description below because it covers that for you as well. So let me break down what I've got also here, a special that makes my UI unique to me. So I've got my status info and enfeeblements right here and enhancements, and then I have status info other. How I manage that is under, again, the UI settings element. You can split your elements into 3 different groups, and that's what I went ahead and did. If I split it, if I didn't split it, it's literally just going to be one section as well. So I'm going to keep it split. I'm going to display the elements, and then you have the 3 different elements that you can display. You can even say that you don't want to be able to focus it with the gamepad, etc. So what that means is that you don't want to be able to see it, you don't want to cycle through it, and that is my status info other. Reason being is that's food buffs, that's like company buffs. I know what those buffs are, especially because I've played so long. I don't necessarily need to use a controller to highlight and see what's going on with that. Feel free to manage it and do whatever you want with it, obviously, but for the most part, that's how I've got my status and enfeeblements. I've got party members, limit gauge, hotbar 2, it's not up there, but I'm not really using it. I have my hotbar 9 for just a couple of quick clicks of various skills that I use. So if you're on a pure controller, like on the PlayStation, and you don't have a mouse and keyboard, quickly, just as a note, you can press the L bumper and down on the right stick. So that's L1 and then down like a click on the right stick. And all of a sudden your D-pad, or excuse me, your right stick becomes a mouse cursor. Left trigger becomes a click and right trigger also becomes a click as well. So you can easily drag and drop skills all around the place for easy use, etc. And apparently I've just completely removed that from my hotbar. So I'll have to fix that later. All right, so to exit the virtual mouse mode, hold down L1 and press on the right stick again. And all of a sudden, you're going to be back in the action. So, okay. All right. Pretty much, this is what it is. I've got my cross hotbar, which is usually denoted XHB. So if you haven't seen that, if you start playing around in the game and you see XHB, that means your cross hotbar. If you see WXHB, that stands for your W, the double cross hotbar. I guess W representing double in this case, working real well for you there. So that's where I've got my left and right double cross hotbars. There's a lot of settings for these as well, and we'll dive into those here in a little bit in the video. Item help, action help, hotbar ones, and main menu. And typically I don't actually use the main menu because I use the start, but we'll talk about that too. So much foreshadowing of the things we're covering. As far as it goes, I've got my map here, server info above my map, showing my connection, my time, etc. If I go click on like server info, I kind of drag that down. Server info, clicking on settings, you can just see that you can display element and you can increase its size. In the character configuration, you can actually set how many different times you want to see server time, real world time, and Eorzean time in this case. So, and then I've put my notices over here on the side and my inventory grid. Really don't use that much, but it just tells you how your inventory is doing. Hotbar 4 and 5, which I can use personally if I'm trying to learn a specific, I have a hard time with that word, a specific rotation. So if you're on a DPS tank or healer and you're like, I want to do A, B, C, and D, feel free to always just kind of give yourselves a little preview hint. And again, using that virtual mouse to be able to assign skills to your hotbar itself. I'm on hotbar 1. Drag that back down. We're going to go and save that. That way I've got that exactly where I usually keep it. For me, this is just a cooldown measurement tool, and that's where I go from there. So, if you guys have any questions on the HUD layout, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'd love to be able to hopefully try to I guess quantify what it is I'm doing. Personally, I hope that you really kind of make your own HUD layout, something that really works for you, and that's really understanding. You can easily use the controller to select the various actions via the drop-down, and then you can hit right on the D-pad and pull up its individual settings. This is a really, really powerful tool. It does give you a lot. What it does not do, it does not allow you to manage your text box, which you can see I can use my mouse and keyboard, obviously my mouse, to drag and drop it here. Text box in your chat logs has its own settings, and you can see various different tabs down here on the left. So to get to it, if you're on just a controller, you can press your select or aka your back button on the PlayStation 4. It's that select pad, that touchpad, which you can use to kind of move around the mouse. That helps select it. If I need to change my chat mode, I can easily do so via the chat mode option here. You can do so via commands, but as you kind of say if you just want to talk to your party or send a tell or talk to your alliance, shout, talk to your free company, your crossword link shell, or any of your link shells, you can easily just set that to the default mode so that when you do type with the keyboard, it's automatically going to put you into that chat mode as well. So let's talk about actually moving this thing around. Again, you want to use your virtual mouse to be able to come down here and click and drag. It's not as easy and convenient, and it can be a little bit sloppy, but for the most part, you'll be able to get it done. And then also, down here on the bottom, you can rearrange it by clicking any of the tabs, and you can move this around. You can even split these tabs out so that you have multiple different chat boxes. So I can take the battle, I can drag it, drop it, and I'm going to put it here right on the right side. So if I want to see battle, things that are happening, what is being said, there you go. So it's weird that isn't a part of the HUD layout. It's weird that it's its own control and tool, but it is what it is, and so you can do whatever you want with it. You can even close out the tabs itself. Let me see if it'll let me set it back very nicely, and it does not appear that it's going to want me to do that. Oh, good. It accepted it as a drop command. I haven't done that in a long time, so I was just like, well, let's play it by ear. So with that's how you can do that, and then you can have these different tabs. But let's talk about settings, why not? And I'm going to go ahead and get off of the virtual mouse mode because my regular mouse works just fine. The settings button for your chat box is going to bring you into your character configuration settings. Not to be confused with system settings, which more foreshadowing we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So here you can actually say what you want. You can show their full name of anybody who's chatting. You can show their abbreviated name. You can show forename abbreviated and their initials, etc. You can even set your default chat time. And then you can also have various settings. So enable item log window linking. So whenever somebody puts something in there, you can click it, see what it's all about. You can say your time settings, local time, and display time in a 24 or a 48-hour format. And here under log filters is where you have a lot of things that you can say what that chat actually will display. So from battle, you can turn off various battle things that I have here in general. So they're not going to show up in my chat. Under announcements, you can see actually I turn off error messages. This is really handy for fall through macro use. So you have all of these things at your disposal. I can't really provide any kind of recommendation about what maybe you want to see as far as it goes, but this way you can sit here and filter these things out. You can really kind of manage your own log. So hopefully that helps reduce a little stress once you kind of figure out what works for you. So those are the various chat filters. You can even set text colors for the various chat channels as well. So you really have a lot of control over this. Under your log details, you can say you want your added timestamp. You can add your various font sizes to the different logs as well, and go from there. And then under notification sounds, this is really handy. You can turn it on so that it's going to notify you when a message comes in. So that way, if maybe if you're not necessarily paying attention, you can turn that on, and you can even determine what type and sound that is going to include. So it's up to you. If you get a lot of chats and things like that and you don't mind notification sounds, turn them on. Otherwise, just get rid of them. Okay, so we're going to close that. We talked about the HUD layout. We talked about kind of the chat box settings. Let's go into system settings real quick. This is where you're going to really control various different views. Now, I'm on a PC. PlayStation 4 users are going to have something a little bit different display. Here's where you can manage all your various sound controls. You can see my master volume is somewhat low. Background music, sound effects, voice, system sounds, and all of that being kind of a range of that. And then player effects volume, you can turn down your own effects, you can turn down party effects, things like that as well. So then graphical settings allows you to basically set whatever you want it to be as best as you can. Depending if you got the machine that can run it, you've got a lot of range of options here. I just invite you to explore, see what works best. I can set myself here, like if I go in and also kind of look at it, I have myself limited to 60 frames per second, but if I turn that off, my graphics card is good enough that it should actually help manage this to where it jumps up, in this case, to like 160 frames a second, etc. When I'm streaming, when I'm playing, I necessarily don't want to worry about that. So I'm going to go and turn that back into a limiting of a 60 frames per second kind of mindset for the game itself. Okay, hopefully that did not mess up this video recording, but we'll find out. We'll find out later. All right, so system settings, this is where you're going to find all that. This is where a gamepad controller configuration, where you can enable how you have it configured, what kind of gamepad type are you. So like you see that, you can obviously see that I can also select PlayStation and PlayStation with touchpad. I can enable in vibration and things like that. Button configuration is something that I actually find important. I don't know if you're like me. I like my jump button to be on X, and I like my open map menu subcommands to be on Y. I do forget that I kind of do that, so sometimes I'm like, yeah, press X and etc. So what that actually looks like is X to jump and then Y to bring up your menu, as opposed to the default way, which is Y to jump and then I guess X to bring up your menu and issue subcommands. If you don't know what I mean by subcommands, press the button on any kind of character selected, and it'll give you a list of various things that you can choose from. Okay, guys, let's talk about the big fish in the pond here, which is character configuration. This is where you can really lose yourself for days, like I have, toying around with all the different settings. So first off, what is this big button? Well, the big button switches you from a kind of keyboard and mouse and gamepad mode. You can still play with the gamepad in keyboard and mouse mode, and same thing kind of goes with you can still use a keyboard and mouse in gamepad mode, but this generally kind of moves a couple of key settings. So if I stick with just gamepad mode, because that's what I prefer, and then under control settings, you can see that I'm in legacy type camera based. So as I move around, my character moves around in whatever direction I'm facing, that's the direction he runs. I can change this to be standard type, and so that when I press back, instead of turning and running backwards, I'm going to back up slowly. Same thing kind of goes with the strafing itself. I think, 14 does the best job when it comes to controller and keyboard and mouse settings, but you can do that. You also have a couple settings regarding maintaining active distance and active standard type, auto fly and auto dive. I prefer to keep those on, but you're going to have to kind of play around with that. Same thing for flying mount takeoff. You can take off just on jump, or you can turn it to manual and you have to double jump to take off to fly. Chat settings mode is enable direct chat. That means when I start typing, my keyboard is going to accept it into the chat box as opposed to bringing up any kind of menus. I can turn that off, and that way then I can still type and chat, but my keyboard would then act as shortcuts that you use to manage it. Here's some real key things. Skipping previously viewed cutscenes. If you're on a system that takes a little bit longer to load, or you've seen these cutscenes 100 times, turn these things on. You can always go watch them. You can always go turn these off, but it will only skip a cutscene for you if you've already seen it, and thus will save you lots of time. It's very handy. Invert, I'm an inverted player. I guess we call that 90s kid or something like that. But regardless, I play with my camera inverted for my right stick to kind of help control that, and that is managed here under General as well. Another thing you can also play around with is switching to first-person view when the camera is fully zoomed in. So that is just a nice little fun thing. If you don't know what I mean by that, is that if you hold down L1, we'll go ahead and save it. If you hold down L1, and then you use the right stick, you're going to zoom the camera in and out. And as I move it around, it's going to zoom in and out for me. It's really handy. I really appreciate it. But if I have that feature turned on, I can zoom all the way in. And when I do, it's going to put me into first-person mode. With the controller, I can just press down on the right stick, and all of a sudden now I am playing in first-person mode. I can hold L1 and press the select button, and now my UI is hidden, even though I can still do everything I want, but it can give me this truly interesting experience from a first-party or a first-person perspective. It gets a little bit busy with the kind of the effects that the game has on itself, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. If I'm selecting something and I want to go ahead and lock on target, I can press down on the left stick. And you can see that allows me to kind of keep my focus. And as I decide to run, it's going to adjust the camera and move me accordingly. So moving in, and then in this case, pressing back to back out of the thing. Pressing down on the left stick as a button click, again, takes me out of that mode. Under character configuration, we can actually set that to automatically lock on target when initiating an auto attack. So if you're trouble trying to get to the thing that you're attacking, you can turn this on until you're a little bit more comfortable with it as well. You can also automatically face target when using an action. This is very handy because you need to face targets to use abilities. However, during various boss mechanics, you might want to be facing away. So just be careful and time it accordingly. Feel free to use that. Enable auto target when no target is specified. This is very nice. It means that whenever you press down on the A button or the, X button on PlayStation, it's going to auto select a target for you. In this case. Now it's going to be based off of any other kind of parameter that you can kind of think of. It will prioritize like NPCs, but I would recommend kind of just playing around with it as best you can. All right, so then we got target type, target closest enemies via ignoring depth or a cone. So this is going to be, if you're having trouble really trying to get to the targets that you want, play around with your cone setting and see if that helps as a part of your targeting closest enemies setting. Ground targeting rings. You can unlock via right bumper and left stick to move. So if you have a ground targeting ability, I usually use the macro command, the open, I just type it in the chat here for you. I can't even, it's like greater than T and then less than or something like that. And then that way it will always just put a ground target wherever my target's at. But if I needed to, you can also hold right bumper and L, your L stick to be able to move that around the thing. So other settings we got, highlight potential targets. This means that if I use my mouse, it's going to put a nice little yellow around any of my potential targets, things that I can target as well. Like if I pick on my Moogle, I don't know, I guess he's not potential. There we go. You can see it happening here as well. So it's going to highlight things that you have the potential to interact with. All right, so jumping back here, display target ring, display target lines, and display aggro lines. If you've played Final Fantasy XII, this is coming from that system in which that what you're targeting and what they're targeting is going to throw those lines at you, kind of giving you a little heads up about what is happening. Click filter settings, click filter targets. You can sit here aggroing NPCs, objects, etc. This is a way that as a part of that click, you can filter out things that you don't want to select, like party members, pets, minions, signs, things like that. So that's really helpful, and it gets even more helpful under the filters setting. Custom and enemies. So when your weapon is sheathed and when your weapon is drawn, you have two different stances. So when your weapon is sheathed, here's what I can target. When my weapon is drawn, here is what I will target. That way, whenever I'm pressing left or right on the D-pad, that's what it's going to cycle through. So if I bring out my weapon, there's no enemies in here for me to fight, so nothing is being targeted. And then if I keep targeting with it up, it's going to go that way. For you healers, pressing up and down on the D-pad is actually going to cycle your party list. I don't have a party right now, so if I go to my user HUD, you would see my party list right here. So up and down on the D-pad cycles through your party members, and you can even sort your party members accordingly, especially like if you have somebody drop and you're like, oh, now my list is all messed up. Typically my tanks are on top with me or something like that. That is actually managed here in character configuration as well. So we'll see if we can get to it here in a little bit. You can have some various character settings like displaying headgear, manually adjust visor, auto sheath weapon if you're not in battle. So if you can turn that on or off. You can say, hey, I'm not in battle, please put my weapon away. And then battle effect settings. If you're having some trouble, like if your system's having a hard time processing, or if you're just really just like, oh my gosh, so much is going on, you can show all of your own battle effects. You can kind of limit your rest of your parties, and then anybody else, you can actually have it to turn off. So sometimes like if you go into big content where there's a lot of people doing it, it helps to really turn this off and make it easy for you. Under mouse, you can enable clicking on self, and then you have various scroll wheels. But most likely, if you're not using a mouse and keyboard, you're not really going to find a lot of value here. However, it's here for you in case you decide to switch over one day. All right, let's go item settings. You have general, open, and expanded. This is going to give you that beautiful inventory list that I've got right here, in which that it's going to say, I want to see everything else. Expanded is going to be what they came and introduced with Stormblood, so enjoy that. You can also set your sort customization, standard and then descending, recording by level, item level, and stack size. So you have a lot of controls here for your sorts and your filters here. That's pretty much under items. There's not too much that I can say and add here as it relates to just playing around with the controller, but feel free to kind of check it out and see if there's anything there you like. Under UI settings, gamepad mode type. Now, if I do the mouse mode type, that means this is going to be my main menu. So I can click on character and I can see all the different drop-down lists that I typically see in the main game as well. It's really up to you what you're most comfortable with. I like gamepad mode. Shortcut display type, close when active, restore map when not moving. You can say no or you can say yes. What this means is that if you're not moving, it will restore the focus to the map. I have mine set to no. Map font size is set to large as well as there. And then help, you can display item help. Also as part of the controller, like you can turn on and off like controller settings. You can see when I hold down the different triggers, nothing is being displayed there. Under your HUD, you can display your XP bar, your parameter bars, your inventory grid, your display duty list. So display duty list is this UI element on the side. You can move it around and also with your settings can be managed there. But you can say how many number of quests you want to see if your UI is getting too busy. I recommend hiding during instant duty list, hide during any kind of non-instance duty, displaying registered duties in your timers, and display duty registration details and timers. I recommend keeping all of those on. It's very handy. You can turn on and off everything pretty much, and then like I said earlier with your clocks, you can end up enabling all your different times in Zoria, local, and server time as well. That kind of helps if you're doing a lot of random different content, especially gathering. I also, under target, have display only detrimental effects that you inflict turned off. Depending on the content, depends on what I need to do here. I had this on for a while and it's really handy, but I've kind of actually been fond of actually seeing everybody else's, especially if I'm in a teaching mood, to be able to say like, hey, this might help, if they don't have something on or if they need to put something on that is not yet applied. And then under party list, like I alluded to earlier, here we can sort. Define the party list role order. So tank, DPS, healer. So if I'm a tank, it's going to go tank, healer, DPS. If I'm a healer, it's going to go tank, DPS, healers. And then if I'm a DPS, it's just going to be tank, healer, DPS. I can set it to any kind of grouping and order and then role sort settings. So that way I can say, what do I want to see more than anything else? First, second, and third, which is really just quite fun. They've actually given us that level of detail. We're going to skip over display name settings. This just gives you the ability to color various different things out in the world, makes it easy to see people as well. Let's jump into hotbar settings because this really relates to my UI and how it sits. So I have display recast times, hide unassigned slots. So if I turn that off, you can see that all those hotbars that I've got are now visible. I'm going to turn that back off. I don't want to display it. I also turn off display hotbar numbers. Again, this just kind of keeps my UI clean as possible. I have my enable hotbar cycling button. So what that means is that when I'm in it, our right bumper will cycle through my various hotbars. If I deselect the window, I can just push right bumper and you can see that it's working just like that. If I press right bumper and hold, I can jump to any number of the hotbars that I have created with the corresponding face button as well. Include pet hotbar when cycling, yes, and then enable drag and drop repositioning, absolutely. And then you can see the hotbar things, which you can then set it by each hotbar and what kind of hotbar you want here, as well as just as the HUD UI layout. So I say display both pet and hotbars and the cross hotbar, which is helpful because I like playing pet classes. And then as part of my pet bar hotbar auto display settings is display only the pet hotbar when it's turned on. And then I also automatically replace it with the pet hotbar when I'm mounted, and that gives me various mount commands that I need to use as well. Sharing is very important. Sharing is caring, as we say. As part of you play multiple jobs or roles, here's where you're going to want to take advantage of it. Unchecked means it's not shared. It's specific to the job. And checked means that it is shared. So hotbar 3, which is right here, is not checked because that means if I change my job, let me switch over to Scholar. You can see it right here. Boom. I have different skills here. I'm not using the same shared skills as well. Whenever anything's shared, like if I look at my hotbar 7, this is where my mount is, my sprint, my limit break, any kind of other macros and targets, things that I need. This is for every job, things that you will all use all the time, regardless of job. That is where you want to be able to place those on sharing, so that way as you change, that it will not change for you, which is really handy. So I have enabled the cross hotbar. I can turn that off if I want. And then I can say always to display the cross hotbar. That means that I can hide it and it's not going to be visible on my screen unless I actually do some kind of command. So if you're finding yourself with limited screen space, I would turn that on. It has display hotbar help, which if I go ahead and save it, which requires a apply in this case, you'll see what that actually looks like. You can see now it's going to tell me the names of those abilities. But as I learn those abilities and learn their names, this has become less needed for me. So in this case, I say hotbar help, where did you go? And now it's gone. So that is very important. And so if you're finding yourself not wanting those, you want it a little bit cleaner, go for that. Use the mount hotbar, yes. Enable duty action input, yes. Display control guide. In this case, you can turn that on and off if needed. I run the hold mode. This means I hold it, and if I release it, it's done. Toggle means you can actually do you press it like a button, and then and it stays on, and then you press it like a button again, and it turns off. Apparently that needs an apply. And then cross hotbar display types. Mine are D-pad plus buttons. You can have it D-pad plus D-pad and buttons as well, but I use D-pad plus buttons. Then, so again, now the W cross hotbar. This is the double cross hotbar that you tap over here. I say always display it. I can turn it off, and then it will show up if I need. Return to the cross hotbar after cross hotbar input. So if I use this skill, okay, boom, raw intuition is used, but now I'm still focused on the right hand side. Same thing for any of these abilities. You can just see it automatically returns my focus. So typically I put anything that's like off the global cooldown onto those just so they're not taking up space in my normal rotations. And then I have it to where I position the W cross hotbar separately from the cross hotbar. And you can set your input timer. If you're having trouble getting over there, you can lower it or raise it accordingly. Let's talk about expanded controls. You can see that I can get here and here. This is holding down the left trigger and then pressing the right trigger. This is holding down the right trigger and pressing the left trigger. How you set those hotbars are here. Cross hotbar 2 left and 7 right. 7 being shared, if you remember back from the sharing tab. Sharing is caring. And 2 being not shared, so that is job specific abilities. And these are typical skills that I like to sometimes put on the hotbar itself. So just as an example of that, I cannot do any drag and drop from here. I need to go to 2. Let me just deselect this window so I can keep it up. Don't know why I opened the map. All right, so I can go to 2 right here, and all of a sudden here I've got these skills, and so I can move them around. If I want to put low blow here, I can just move those around. I cannot do that from there as well. You'll see with 3 hotbar, like my W cross hotbar, aka the double tap. This is set to 3 left and right, which is job specific. I cannot drag and drop skills onto these. I have to drag and drop them onto 3 left and 3 right, or it can be 4 left and 4 right, or 5 left. It doesn't matter. Whatever you set these as is there. It's important though, you'll see that as a part of my cycling, I skip over 2 and 3. So we were looking at this earlier. That's why I have to hold down and actually pick on 2 and 3 to get to it. You can see that I can jump right to 7 and 8. That way I don't need to see those. I don't want to accidentally be playing and bump the right bumper and then all of a sudden everything's off. It's like, no. You can see also that I keep myself on hotbar 1 when my weapon is drawn. I am not going to let myself be removed from there as well. You can do the exact same stuff for your PvP settings as well. I don't think it's as needed as a part of Stormblood, but it's still there and interesting for you. Guys, this was a lot of information to cover. I mean, this is just, I guess, getting started with kind of the HUD layout with your controller as well. One of the number one things is how do you put actions on that cross hotbar? And since I went ahead and removed one on accident, let me go ahead and re-add it as well. So I want to go ahead and re-add Defiance. If I was just on a PlayStation with no keyboard or mouse, hold L1, press down on the right stick, get the virtual mouse going, left trigger click, and drag and drop right onto your bar there. And that's how you do it. If you're ever in this, if you're ever in these windows and you're like, gosh, this is such a huge window, you can press down on the right stick and it's going to resize these menus for you all the way up to max, and then it's going to return itself to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable. And this goes for any and all windows. You can manage these individually and really keep the good times rolling. That's the right click zoom feature as a part on the controller. The big ones I think are the hold down the L1 and the right stick to be able to move around. The other big one is managing your filters so that using the D-pad will help you select the targets that you want, and also manage your auto default click settings so that you can automatically click, especially when things are really busy around you, when there's a new quest and everybody's trying to do it. That is very helpful as well. Remember that pressing the select button is going to navigate you around the UI. Every time you press it, it's just going to keep bouncing around depending on how many different elements are open. If you click this little gear thing, it's actually going to unlock your mini map. So if you're like, hey, which direction I'm going, I'm turning, and it's not turning, this will have it turn for you. Otherwise, if you have it checked, then it will stay still and where you need. And you can zoom it in. You can zoom it out here, and you can do all that via your, again, select button to easily jump around to it. Same thing for your quest log. If you want to click on the quest itself, you can hit A by using the arrow, or if you click on the blue, it's going to take you to the overworld map, which you can also now use. This is a great trick. Right bumper, and it will open up the map, and even that will work for teleporting to any of these aetherytes. You can see me zooming in and out. That's the left bumper, L1, and up and down on the right stick. So with the map active, your zoom now takes place with the map itself. And you can see that it kind of tries to jump you to the different aetherytes, which you can use to teleport. Guess what? You can press right bumper, aka R1, to actually select whatever the object is, in this case, the teleport, and teleport there as well. It's really handy. I highly recommend it. Getting hopefully some level of comfort with the controller, some level of comfort with your UI. It's going to make this game really magical for you. It's going to make it real comfortable for you as far as that goes. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Hopefully this helps answer any questions. Hopefully I'm not speaking in too many, I guess, abbreviations, so to say. So as far as it goes, let me know in the comments below if you're still stuck on something. I try to stream often, and if you are, I'd like to invite you to a stream in which that we could probably have more of a real-time conversation. That, or maybe consider becoming a Patreon, a YouTube, join on the live stream on YouTube, or on a Twitch subscription to be able to get access to our Discord server, so we can actually have also easy conversations, share screenshots, and things like that. Guys, for Work to Game, my name is Brian. I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know. Either way, and that way I can try to help improve these guides going forward. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Hey, it's me. Thanks so much for watching this video. You should click here to subscribe, and here to maybe check out some more of our videos. So again, thanks for watching. We hope you like this video. We hope you subscribe and join our community. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and we'll see you next time.